On this episode of the Apple Watchers, Google buys Fitbit for $2.1 billion. Could mean competition for the Apple Watch. Apple Watch fall detection alerts police of unconscious car crash victim. Touch ID coming to the Apple Watch. Apple TV Plus is here. Apple reports Q4 earnings. Siri can be hacked with a laser. AirPods Pro are here. We've got John's in-depth review. All this, our picks, and much more. This is episode number 13. Welcome to the Apple Watchers, a podcast covering all things Apple Watch and many things Apple. This episode and every episode is brought to you by me, Kevin Hare, and my co-host, Jonathan Zarko, aka JZ. All right, let's get started. All right, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Just, always busy, always juggling a lot. Busy.
But we got lots of great news to talk about.
We do. There's always a lot, and I don't think anyways, we'll talk about that later. We can't fit it all in one show, but we do have other ways to check out stories, all the stories you may have missed. Why don't we just jump right in to some Apple Watch stories? So we got Apple Watch or watchOS 6.1 that came out.
Yeah, the new software update.
Yep. Yeah, and it was sort of minor support for AirPods Pro.
It's exciting, and we'll talk about later.
Yes, because you own some.
I have. And the last time we spoke, we had no idea that they were actually going to be a thing.
Yeah, we didn't know for sure. It's crazy.
Only rumors. Yeah,
and they just put them out. So a big thing for anyone that owns older watches like the Series 1 or 2, this finally brings watchOS 6 to the Series 1 and 2. Other than that, there doesn't seem to be a lot of changes.
It is a 0.1. There's not a lot in there. It's mostly just putting in the old architecture for the legacy devices, and then, some enhancements possibly, or some bug fixes.
Yeah, I was hoping for a little bit better battery life, but it's still about a day, but it just seems a little bit less than my Series 4, but nothing to go crazy about. But one day, separate subject, but I'd love to see like 2 or 3 day battery life, but maybe one day.
I think that's going to be more hardware than software. Though.
Yeah.
They're put a slightly larger battery into it physically.
Yeah, it would definitely not just be software. Software can only do so much, but I would still love to see it. Whatever it takes. Except for a bigger watch. I think 44 millimeters is big enough.
Yeah.
I think the days of big watches are done. So they have a activity challenge coming up, an Apple Watch activity challenge for Veterans Day.
They are Monday, the November 11th.
Yes.
So you're probably listening to this on that day or possibly past it. So hopefully you get to hear this.
Yeah. Anyone? Yeah. Well, I hope to post it tonight. So hopefully people check it out and do the challenge. But it only requires 11 minutes of workout, and that is through Apple's workout app or any that you have connected to Apple Health. So
that's super cool.
Yeah.
They give you a little metal mapping with the American flag and a gold star into the bad shape. So fun little thing.
Yeah.
Nice little nod to the veterans. Thank you for your service.
Oh, yes. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. All the veterans, man. So more Apple Watch news. This, it's related. Google buys Fitbit for $2.1 billion. So Google announced that it's buying wearable Fitbit for $2.1 billion in a blog post announcing the news. Google SVP of Devices and Services, Rick Osterich, said that the Fitbit purchase is an opportunity to invest more in Wear OS, as well as introduce made by Google wearable devices into the market. So, I don't know if I even need to read this whole thing, but the reason I included it because it's a big deal. The Wear OS has been a bit scattered. They haven't been focusing on it very much.
And Fitbit is successful, so they're able to take some of the learnings from those departments and probably try to integrate it into a new company for them.
Yeah, the last Fitbit Versa, it's either the Versa 2 or 3, I'm not sure. Mm-hmm. It's a really big seller. I mean, they sold it at Costco. It looks very similar to the Apple Watch, if I didn't just say that. Yeah, I mean, and the reason I put the story in here because it's good to have competition. It's good that Apple Watch will have more competition because it will drive the Apple Watch further and to always strive to be better. So it's it's like the iPhone and the Pixel phone.
Yep.
The battle of cameras is fantastic and it's beneficial for us. So I could see this being the same, and I'm sure Apple is panicking right now, just knowing of this because they're.
Yeah, I'm sure they're probably going to start hiring a little bit more aggressively what they'll do is kind of what they've done with some of their other devices and look and see like, you know what, we've kind of mastered that device. How can we expand on it by creating a new device, aka a wearable that Google may have already failed at, like some glasses or something.
Yeah. Yeah, and the software skills that Google's going to put into this is going to be fantastic. I think the Fitbit Versa has Alexa, and so if you own a Fitbit Versa, you can say goodbye to that.
Yep.
Because it'll now be the Google Assistant.
That is one thing I will say. So we have, if you have a Fitbit and you're planning on staying in the Fitbit ecosystem, when Google acquires a company, they tend to close off support for other things. Case in point, Nest.
Oh, yeah.
Nest used to have a great and robust iPhone app and Apple Watch app. And now that they've made everything migrate over to Google account, the Nest app is not as efficient and the Watch app is gone.
Yeah.
So very sad in that case. But it just means if you want to continue to use their product, you have to kind of get into their ecosystem.
Yeah. We'll see what happens. I want to point out, too, that Fitbit, quite a while ago, they bought Pebble, which was probably like the original smartwatch. Definitely predated the Apple Watch. What else here? Google has already bought smartwatch technology from Fossil based on tech that Fossil acquired when it bought wearable market Misfit back in 2015. So it sounds like they're going to put all of this together into something that's definitely going to take on the Apple Watch.
And from a business perspective, too, Fitbit is operating at a good business practice and good advertising and marketing. And so in their acquisition, they're also getting that. And, those are interesting things when you look at those, the leaders of that company. They can be acquired and then either like ousted or appreciated and brought into the fold. And I think that's also some of this that's going on. They're kind of industry leaders in understanding how to sell the device properly. And I think that'll be a big part of it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I could see them also, they've previously, they've offered the Pixel phone with something else along with it for free, another device. And I can see them just trying to stomp Apple out by buy a Pixel phone and you get a free Fitbit Versa with it, something like that, which would be pretty compelling. But, like I said, it's good for us because maybe Apple will start doing some kind of deals, something,
100%.
And they'll definitely, add more technology to the Apple Watch and make it better and try to compete. So it'll be good. I think it's a good thing. Although if you own a Fitbit Versa or any Fitbit and you're concerned with privacy and don't like Google, well, now you're going to have issues.
This is a great product called the Apple Watch. I'm not sure if you've heard, but might be a great replacement.
Yeah. On to the next Apple Watch story. So Apple Watch fall detection alerts cops of unconscious car crash victims. So this happened in England. Police in England responded to a car accident after Apple Watch on the wrist of an unconscious man sent a request for help. Details on the crash, including the victim's condition, were not available, but the emergency SOS may have been first for the police in Surrey. The enthusiastically Surrey, who enthusiastically posted on Twitter and tagged Apple CEO Tim Cook. The tweet also included a string of emojis showing the watch, satellite, and rescue vehicles. So
that's pretty cute.
Yeah.
They're like, your technology worked, we saved somebody. Look.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah, that's about that on that story, though. There's not many other details in this article, but we cover these stories each time they come up, and they come up in every episode, it seems like. So
it's just really fun to kind of celebrate when people are helped and saved by the device.
Yeah, and we covered one that was very similar to this because this is the fall detection, but it detected an auto accident.
So the impact was hard enough that it detected felt like a fall.
Yeah, so pretty interesting. I don't know how... I would love to hear more details, too. I don't know how hard this car crash was, but yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if they eventually change the name from like fall detection to impact detection or something like that. Although there is some technology in it around the motion, like when they first announced fall detection and they showed like the different hand motions, they could tell if, somebody is falling forward or sideways or down and how your arms kind of flail. I think they're working to kind of make it a little bit better so that we probably will see it happen more and more for these kinds of, auto accident falls or other locations.
Yeah. It's pretty cool stuff. Pretty cool.
So there is a new patent that has been covered for the Apple Watch, but this one doesn't really focus on the hardware device itself. What's interesting about this one is it's about the band, and not necessarily in an electrical capacity.
Yeah, because most of the previous articles we've covered on patents have been like antennas in the band and stuff like that, right?
In there.
Yeah.
But this is a patent that uses a dial mechanism to tighten or loosen the band on the user's wrist. So while Apple claims the new band is for a watch or health device, the fact that the Apple Watch is both is kind of, hitting the nail on the head there. But so beyond providing a user with maximum comfort control, Apple states that a user may be able to operate one or more health monitoring applications or functions for a longer period of time. A user may want a slightly tighter fit when exercising, so a health sensor like a heart rate monitor can operate more efficiently and effectively. However, at other times of the day, they may want a looser fit, and so several techniques are disclosed for performing these incremental adjustments. And what's kind of fun is in their patents, they have diagrams, and it's basically like a little disc that you would be able to turn, and it will tighten or loosen your band.
Yeah, and it has gears on the bottom of it connecting to a gear on top and bottom, sort of, or side to side. And so by twisting it a certain way, it would loosen or tighten both bands because it's connecting. We'll of course include a link in the show notes where you can check out the diagram. But
now this is also interesting though, because there's another patent that got recently awarded to Apple. This patent actually hints at Touch ID in the display itself, but they also mention an antenna that's assembled into the watch band. And so the antenna would be able to flex and move, so it's not a rigid antenna, so it's comfortable to wear, but it also will provide connectivity to the Touch ID sensor, and so, or any other kind of sensor that they have in the watch face. So this patent's kind of fun, one, because it's kind of hinting at the fact that Apple may be looking at doing a Touch ID for the watch. But was also kind of thinking that if they are putting antenna into the band, that maybe the previous patent with the flexibility could also be integrated in a way where if it's electric, you have an app on, let's say you're starting a workout, the band could tighten itself a little bit automatically and then release when the app is done. Or if you're doing your heart rate monitoring or something like that, just sitting, it could tighten and release. So I see how a lot of these patents could kind of get mixed together.
Yeah.
And, utilize into really, really cool features that might come up for the future of the Apple Watch.
Yeah. Yeah. Pretty cool stuff. Well, why don't we why don't we move on to some Apple stories? So we got Apple TV Plus now. That was released on November 1st.
Yeah.
In over 100 countries. And of course, if you have bought an iPhone or, well, almost anything but the Apple Watch, basically devices that you can watch Apple TV Plus on, you got it free. I did have a little difficulty. I don't know about you, but I had to log into apple.tvplus.com or apple.tv.com and sign in there. And then it kind of refreshed. Actually, right when I signed in, it didn't even say that I had a free, year, but then hit refresh. And a lot of people had to do that. And some people, I've heard, have just refreshed the Apple TV app, let's say on their iPhone or other device, and then it kind of ironed itself out. But if you have any difficulty on your device and cannot get in, and you have a recently purchased device, try going on the web at apple.tv.com or appletv.com.
Yeah, I had I got an alert on my phone when Apple TV went live saying your recent purchase enables you for 1 year of free Apple TV. And so then I tapped on it and it took me into the app on my phone. And I was like, oh, okay, cool, that's all synced up. But now when I went to try to watch it on my actual Apple TV, the physical device, the Apple TV app was causing me problems. So I had to actually shut down and restart the entire Apple TV. And once I did that, the Apple TV icon went from being gray to the black, and then it started showing the content for Apple TV Plus, and it let me just start watching things instantly. So I think there was some cycling that needed to happen with some of their systems, and hopefully everybody was able to figure it out.
Yeah, and it was a big rollout. And sorry, I said that URL wrong the second time, but it's tv.apple.com. It's where you go if you have trouble and want to go on the web.
Did you watch anything?
We watched The Elephant Queen, which is amazing. We like a lot of nature shows, and that one is really beautiful. It's pretty family friendly, but there is a little bit of animal death in there. So just, if your kid's really young, maybe, I don't know, it's your judgment call as a parent, but it was fantastic. We started to watch the morning show, but only got about halfway through the first episode. But we're under a lot of time constraints right now too, so we haven't had time to watch anything. Have you watched anything? Or
we're kind of the same boat. Not a lot to watch, or not a lot of time right now to watch extra things. But I wanted to see, because that looked really interesting to me. And it was good. It's interesting. The premise is a little weird. There is one scene that is bizarre to me. And just real quick, talking about how you were saying that there's the animal death in it. I will say this: Apple is not watering down their shows. There is definitely adult content and themes and language in the shows. The first episode, and I'm not really spoiling anything talking about this, but there is a queen and she is praying. And while praying, she's masturbating.
Dear.
And they show the whole thing. So there was no nudity, but they show her pray to completion.
Oh boy.
And it was just a bizarre scene. I don't know if it'll be relevant later on, or if it's just some creative license to show where humanity has gone in this post-apocalyptic future. But
wow.
So there was that. Yeah. Don't watch it with your kids. That one's definitely not one. And then we watched the first couple episodes of The Morning Show, which I'm actually really enjoying.
Okay.
With Reese Witherspoon and Steve Carell and Jennifer Aniston, and there's also a lot of language in that too. So which doesn't faze me, but is just something to keep in mind that they're making shows for adults, and shows for adults have certain things in them. But I'm enjoying it. I think I'm enjoying the morning show more than C right now. But I'm also really into like news dramas, and I really like Steve Carell.
Yeah.
And for those of you who haven't watched it, basically Steve Carell's character and Jennifer Aniston's character were morning show hosts. And in the wake of the Me Too movement, Steve Carell's character comes out as he gets fired for sexual misconduct. And so it's kind of the aftermath of how that impacts the news show, and the new dynamic between Jennifer Aniston and Reese Witherspoon, who's an anchor for a different network, and so yeah, it's a reporter for a different network. It's interesting. I'm only a couple episodes in, so I don't know how the story's unfolding, but so far I'm really liking their dynamics and everything that's kind of going on in the story.
Cool. Before we move on from this story, I want to point out that they're offering, for students who already have an Apple Music subscription, they can enjoy Apple TV Plus for no extra cost. And the Apple Music subscription, if you're not aware, is $5 a month if you're a student. So, between the music and TV Plus, they're definitely encouraging you not to study. And, I don't know.
Actually, it's very smart from a marketing standpoint, right? Encourage people to buy the Apple devices. And then for school, when you really don't have a lot of money, and it would be very easy to get a PC or something like that because it's cheaper, but then also keep them with the entertainment part so that later on, once you're out of school and making money, you're still loyal to the brand.
Yeah.
Really cool.
So my fiance and I also signed up for Apple Arcade, the 1 month free, and we're doing the family sharing. We haven't had time to really get into it, but there are definitely some neat games. We've mentioned before that they're not really like gamer type games, but they're really fun, really cute kind of fun games. So
that's cool.
Maybe
have you tried using or done any Apple Arcade on the Apple TV?
Yeah. Not enough though, but we have an older generation Apple TV, not like super, super old, but it's not the 4K version. But there was like a little bit of lag, I'll report on it more later, but, if we get time to try more games and try it on TV, and then, it still needs some work, I think, on Apple's part, more clarity on which games are multiplayer. I don't see how to do multiplayer on the Apple TV, but, maybe I can, figure it out. Yeah, check it out. But why don't we move on to this story?
Sure. So in our patent theme, today's a big patent episode. Apple patent filing involves Apple glasses with an adjustable opacity system. So just straight up patenting a thing with the words Apple glasses in it. But Apple has applied for another patent, one of a dozen or so, that hints at features for the rumored Apple glasses: an augmented reality, virtual reality head-mounted display expected to debut next year. The patent filing is dubbed head-mounted device with adjustable opacity system. So I think it's almost basic. I think it's pretty clear that glasses are coming in the future.
Yeah.
From Apple.
And they would need something like, it seems obvious because any data or images showing up on your glasses, you would maybe not want them. It's sort of like a brightness adjustment in a way.
Yeah.
You want a little transparency so you can see where you're walking down the street or whatever.
But I think this is more than just the opacity of what's being projected onto the device. It also says it's a head-mounted display displaying augmented reality content may overlay computer-generated images on real-world objects. And Apple says that if care isn't taken, those computer-generated images may be difficult to see against the real-world objects. Or real-world objects may distract a viewer, or other issues may arise with the display content, and they want to avoid that. So what this sounds like to me is it's more of an opacity to knock out the world so that you can see the display better. instead of seeing the display and having that too much. Because I'm sure you're completely right. Like, you're going to need to be able to adjust the brightness and the opacity of the actual AR overlay. But I think there's also difficulties that they're generating with having the objects come through clearly, so you're not you're able to see it even though you're looking at things further off in the distance.
Yeah. Very cool. Well, I wonder how what Tim Cook's, what he thinks of it as he's wearing his glasses already.
Yeah, he's going to come out and say, like, I've had these on my face for the last few years.
Yeah.
I don't know why you guys didn't. I'm just waiting for somebody to say, hey, are those the Apple glasses?
Yeah. Crazy.
Super cool. So continuing on with our patent
Bonanza
patent episode. Future Apple Pencil could sport a display and scanning capabilities. And so before you get excited, this isn't scanning like you're scanning paper. But this newly filed patent, if it ever comes to fruition, could see an Apple Pencil with a built-in display and capabilities that would allow a color to be selected with the device, and then have that color then exported to an external device. So it involves an Apple Pencil that sports an onboard display that indicates to a user a color that will be applied when operating the stylus with an external device, such as an iPad or iPhone. So essentially, you'll take it and you would put the tip on something else. At least this is how I understand it. You take the pencil, you put the tip on, say, like an apple, red apple. You'll now have that red selected, and you would then be able to draw on an iPad with that color. So really interesting. And you would also be able to see, because there's a display on it, the tip turn that color, which is kind of cool. So it just kind of shows, a new functionality that they may put out there, help you if you're drawing or painting, or if you like something and you want to, you like a color but you're having trouble getting it. You could actually use the pencil to get it. So some interesting thoughts coming, I think, out of the Apple think tank right now for the future of their devices.
Yeah, very cool. Very cool stuff. This next story, future iPhones expected to adopt Apple Watch's low-power LTPO display technology. So Apple plans to use low-power backplane technology called LTPO for future iPhones, according to Korean website The Elec. The backplane is responsible for turning individual pixels on and off on the display. So from the report, Apple, meanwhile, is moving in a more widely apply LTPO panels to its iPhone. So this means it needs to find ways to work together with Samsung Display, which is holding its own in terms of both technological prowess and production capacity in the small and mid-size OLED sector. Let's skim through this a little bit. So we've mentioned this on a previous episode too. The LTPO display is used on the Apple Watch Series 4 and 5. And it's definitely used more so on the 5 because that's what's doing the always-on display. This could be pretty cool if it gives us even more battery life on the iPhone. I mean, I'm sure you feel the same. I have zero complaints with this 11 Pro Max.
It's fantastic.
I'm going to sound like a broken record here, but I've mentioned before, at the end of the day, I have 50% left.
Yep.
And I've gone crazy streaming this and, YouTube and, it just... So this would be good. I
didn't charge my phone last night, and I'm still looking at a third battery life. And it's currently 4:00 in the afternoon the next day. So
yeah,
battery's still running strong.
Yeah. So I don't know if we mentioned on the previous episode too, these LTPO is a low temperature polysilicon and oxide display features a reinvented pixel architecture that lets the screen refresh rate dip from 60 hertz to a power sipping 1 hertz. When
it's inactive.
Yeah, when it's inactive. So this could be really cool.
I think this is great. anything that helps get the phone get better battery life is good. Even if we're happy with the battery life now, it just means that if they can optimize it to be any better, they can reduce size to get more technology into it too.
But yeah, and I will say Apple, because they're listening, right?
Always, yes.
It's okay even if you make the phone just slightly thicker. Like it's fine. I'm good. Just give me that battery life. Until I get a weak battery life,
you're going to ask for more battery life.
Yeah, it's no good. But as they're working on battery technology, I would definitely like to see more in the Apple Watch. So it seems like they test with other devices. So, it'll be cool.
Well, very cool. So moving on, Tim Cook says that the AirPods Pro are complementary to AirPods, not replacements. This is from 9 to 5 Mac.
So I should buy both?
Yes, you need both. No. Apple's wearables, homes, and accessory category hit $6.5 billion in revenue for Q4 2019, including AirPods and Beats and Apple Watch. But the AirPod Pros weren't released in time to be included in the Q4 reports. But when talking about them, Tim Cook says that AirPods just keep hitting new heights, and I anticipate that that will carry over to this quarter too. And we're really proud to add another product out there for people wanting noise canceling with the AirPod Pro beginning to sell today. We're going to get into it in a little bit. I did pick up some AirPod Pros.
Yes.
And gotta say, they are fantastic. But we will get to that in a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if I need 2 pairs. And I have the Generation 1. And they're still showing no signs of weakened battery or less battery life. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I've been tempted to buy some AirPod Pros, but I think I'm going to wait at this point.
Well, we'll talk about it later.
Yeah,
and then you're going to order them.
And I do. Oh man. I really think my fiance should buy me some, but and they were $14 off at Costco.
And Amazon, and then that was very short lived.
Yeah, and I do. There is one thing that I would like to have that is not in the Generation 1. Is I believe that's the H1 chip. So I can't have Siri read my incoming messages. And the Generation 2 and of course the new AirPods Pro, you can. So, but I don't know. I'm on the fence, but it's been very tempting. I've almost hit that little buy button. And it's very tempting with the Apple Card, 3% back. I don't know.
Yep.
And speaking of 3% back, so iPhone will be interest-free if you buy with an Apple Card. I don't believe this has been implemented, but Tim Cook said, I believe last Wednesday, that this will give customers 3% cash back on the total cost of the iPhone, and it's interest-free over 24 months.
That's awesome.
Yeah. If you don't own an iPhone, I don't know how you do this, because you need the phone to have the Apple Card. Yeah. I do think that will also change in the future, the Apple Card and where you can manage it. You currently can't manage it from any other device but your iPhone. But if they really want to open this up, it seems like it would be good to manage it from my iPad. I don't see why they can't. It's Touch ID on it and, enough security features. But I think that will come later on. But this is really good and really compelling, just another way to buy the iPhone. And that's a pretty sweet deal. I mean, 0 interest, 24 months, 3% cash back. It's pretty good.
It's almost like a reverse credit card.
Yeah.
Because instead of being charged 3% or higher on interest, you're getting back 3%.
Yeah.
And when your phone's $1,000, that's $30. It's pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah. It's cool. So we had Apple's earnings reports too, the Q4 2019 earnings. So we'll go through that really quick. So coming from Tim Cook quoting here, We concluded a groundbreaking fiscal 2019 with our highest Q4 revenue ever, fueled by accelerating growth from services, wearables, and iPads, said Tim Cook. With customers and reviews raving about the new generation of iPhones, today's debut of the new noise-canceling AirPods Pro, the hotly anticipated arrival of Apple TV Plus, just 2 days away, so that was back then. It's our best lineup of products and services ever, and we're optimistic about what the holiday quarter has in store. So they're coming from CFO Luca Miestri. Our strong business performance drove record Q4 EPS of 3.03 and record Q4 operating cash flow of 19.9 billion. Whew. Yeah. We also returned over 21 billion in shareholders, including almost 18 billion in share repurchases and 3.5 billion in dividends and equivalents. And we continue on our path of reaching the net cash neutral position over time.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And they're so broken down on devices and services here, or not services, but so 33.36 billion for the iPhone. 12.5 billion in services is included. Sorry about that. 6.99 billion on the Mac, 6.52 billion on wearables, home and accessories, and 4.66 billion on iPad.
It's interesting to me that iPad is below the wearables, but I think that's because it has the home and accessories rolled into it.
Yeah.
I almost wonder if wearables themselves are probably like in the high threes to the low fours, and then the home and accessories is just a couple million.
I would think so. And they won't report their specific earnings on the Apple Watch and AirPods, but I think those are really driving obviously that is their only wearables. So that's what's really driving it. And from what I've seen in other articles and whatnot, the Apple Watch just keeps killing it every year.
Mm-hmm.
Like it just keeps going up. It never plateaus as far as sales. And I think that's going to be the same with AirPods. So
interestingly enough too, the services includes the Apple Card revenue that they've generated, and then there's also the Apple Card and the Apple TV Plus.
Yeah.
So I'm predicting that next year or next quarter we may see services be close to or beat than the iPhone.
Beat the iPhone. Wow.
Yeah, I think it might. I mean,
that would be
when you
wild.
Consider what a credit card, the kind of revenue that credit cards can generate, and with the adoption of the Apple TV and the Apple Arcade and music and all that other stuff, iCloud, everything else, I wouldn't be surprised if that ends up starting to really increase that little segment.
Yeah, it's pretty wild, man.
So moving on, there is a really cool. There's actually scary. Never mind, not cool.
Yeah,
not cool.
Yeah, not cool. And
article coming up. Researchers hack Siri, Alexa, and Google Home by shining lasers at them.
Yeah,
this comes from Ars Technica.
It's crazy.
So Siri, Alexa, and Google Assistant are vulnerable to attacks that use lasers to inject inaudible and sometimes invisible commands into devices and serendipitously cause them to unlock doors, visit websites, and locate, unlock, and start vehicles. Researchers report that in a paper published on Monday, dubbed Light Commands, the attack works against Facebook Portal and a variety of phones. So shining a low-powered laser into these voice-activated systems allows attackers to inject commands of their choice, from as far away as 360 feet. And because voice-controlled systems don't often require users to authenticate themselves, the attack can frequently be carried out without the need of a password or PIN. Even when systems require authentication for certain actions, it may be feasible to brute force the PIN, since many devices don't limit the number of guesses a user can make. Among other things, light-based commands can be sent from one building to another and penetrate glass when a vulnerable device is kept near a close window.
Oh, man.
So the attack exploits a vulnerability in microphones that use microelectromechanical systems, or MEMS. Microscopic MEMS components of these microphones unintentionally respond to light as if it were sound. While the researchers tested only Siri, Alexa, and Google Assistant and Facebook Portal, and a small number of tablets and phones, the researchers believe that all devices that use MEM microphones are susceptible to light command attacks. So this is scary. And, but from a technological standpoint, very interesting that we can use light to create voice commands. But I wonder if this means that maybe cases are better because you have more things kind of in the way of the device causing destruction, or screen protectors. Right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, but these are more the stationary, like a HomePod, and Alexa. I think more so, but yeah, it does.
It says it could be a phone. Right?
Yeah, that's
that's
next
to
true.
A window.
Yeah, that's true, and definitely keep your HomePod, Alexa and Google Home out of your window.
Yeah. Granted, there's not a lot of.
Yeah.
I don't know. A lot of commands that have like sensitive data that get released from your digital assistants, but it might be easy to change plans or buy things with people's phones. I can see that as a scam.
Oh yeah,
you have Alexa set up to your card, and you have some company that's selling, I don't know, detergent or something, or you tell it to buy. Just drive around and tell it to buy random things.
Tell them to buy those AirPods Pro that are on sale.
Yeah.
At Amazon. Yeah.
So really, really kind of interesting article out there. Kind of makes you think about what might happen in the future.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how to defend against it now, but I think maybe screen protectors and covers might help.
Yeah.
Or just, keeping your phone in your pocket. That'll also help.
Yeah, and it's it's scary when you hear this type of headline, but at the same time, it's very hard to recreate this kind of attack. But it is good that it was brought up, and instead of finding out later on that this type of vulnerability existed and causing havoc. So someone performed these tests and discovered it. So it's better that it's brought up.
It probably wouldn't be too difficult to guard against if manufacturers were intentional about it, because audio can go through like a grid, right? Mm-hmm. But a series of thin metal bands in different ways could be completely light and penetrating. But still allow for audio to get through. So
yeah,
there might be some manufacturing that they can do to kind of help mitigate this. But you don't know it's a problem until somebody checks it. So
yeah, it's good. It's good that someone did it, making us more aware. Well, got a couple things that have dropped in the For Your Entertainment section. A photo battle between iPhone 11 Pro and a $7,500 DSLR. And the results may surprise you. Yeah, it's pretty interesting. Yeah, it's really interesting, actually, because our phones, and, I'll say this too, probably not just the iPhone 11 or 11 Pro, but even the Pixel, like the Pixel phone. Mm-hmm. The amount of technology going into these cameras is getting closer to recreating kind of what a DSLR does. Mm-hmm. There are differences still, of course, but they're working a lot of magic.
They are,
and so it's getting really incredible, and it's a really cool video to see.
Yeah, we're able to digitally mimic a lot of the same kind of features and effects that you used to be able to get with a DSLR. Mm-hmm. And the better the photo sensor and the lenses that we're able to fit into phones, the higher quality we're going to be getting. So
yeah,
I don't know. One day they may be obsolete.
Yeah, we'll see. And the other thing is Apple posts new privacy on iPhone ad called "Simple as That," and it's pretty cool because obviously they're trying to push their privacy all the time. So that's pretty cool to check out. Why don't we move on to our picks? I don't know if you want to go first.
Yeah, I think that sounds good. I've been.
Did you mention AirPods before?
So I don't know if you heard, but there is a new product that Apple has released called the AirPod Pro. They are a noise canceling AirPod that fits into your ear. They have a very similar form factor to the normal AirPods, but they have a little rubber nib on the end that fits into your ear and holds on.
And three different sizes.
Yes, you get 3 different sizes that you can choose from. My issue I had with AirPods before was that they would fall out of my ears.
Mm-hmm.
And so I never really actually got a pair because while riding a bike, I don't want to be rolling around and lose one.
Yeah.
And I lose things all the time. I can just imagine a small little AirPod getting out of here. I got the AirPod Pros. I got them like the day that they were announced. Had them in hand. I've been playing with them for over a week now, and I absolutely love them. The sound quality on them is great. The fit on them is wonderful. I can put them in my ears and knock my neck back and forth like I'm trying to knock water out of my ear from getting out of a pool or something, and they do not fall out.
Now, they go through like a fitting, right? Through the software, through the setup.
It's not
like
part of the setup.
Or like
so
it checks to see if it's the best fit for your ear,
right.
sort of.
It doesn't activate it automatically. You have to force it to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's part of the options in Bluetooth. So once you pair them, you just unlock your phone and you open the AirPod container right next to it. Boom, they're paired to that device.
Right.
Once you put them inside, you can go to the Bluetooth panel and there is a fit test. And what it does is you put them in your ears and then you enable the fit test. It plays some music, and based off of sound leakage and the pressure, I think, too, from your ear, it can detect whether or not you have a good fit.
Well,
now,
what music does it play?
It's like
just something generic, like
a generic Muzak kind of chime, but it's not like cheesy or anything. It's just a quick little thing.
They don't force you to listen to like U2, that album they gave us.
Yeah, that one album.
Okay, that Apple gave us years ago.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I don't know. Maybe it's somebody from YouTube playing an instrument, though. I'm sure there's some connection.
Yeah, it's got to be connected to U2 somehow.
Now, what's interesting about the different nibs, because I tried those different nibs to see. They come with a pair. They come with a pair that are already attached, and then there's ones that are smaller and ones that are larger. And I had the ones that were attached in at first, and I was using them for a couple of days, and the fit seemed pretty good. But I felt like every once in a while, I didn't know if I was just being paranoid or if they were like slightly shifting in my ear. I couldn't get them to fall out, but when I was riding my bike, and just had the one in, I was a little nervous that they might have been unseating themselves. So I did try the smaller version, and they fit okay, but they actually felt looser. But I thought maybe the smaller ones could fit deeper in my ear, and it's didn't really help. And then I put the larger ones in, and those seem to, I think, hold a little bit better than the others. So I do have the larger ones in now. But I did try the fit test with both the smaller and the larger. And so the fit test said it fit for both sizes. So I'm not sure how ill-fitting they need to fit for the fit test to say that it doesn't work. But I say that the small one still would have worked fine. They just would have shifted a little bit. But even still, I can move around and they're not falling out of your ears very, very easily.
Maybe your ears are two different sizes. Like you need a small in one ear and a large in the other ear?
I honestly think that might be the case because my right ear is the one that I use the most because it's the one that I like to have for when I'm riding my bike. I only have one in.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I switched the nibs to the larger ones, I did feel like the left side was a little too big. So I had contemplated that, going down to the normal size on the left and trying it. So I haven't done that yet. If it starts to bother me, I might just have to get used to just having something in my left ear like that. But about the actual device themselves. So there's two different modes. There is, three if you include off. There's off.
Yeah.
Then there is transparency mode.
Right.
And how transparency mode works, it utilizes a microphone on the outside to take the noise around you and replay it to you through the headphone set. So it's essentially like you don't have anything on. Now, there is a slight modulation that kind of happens. It almost kind of sounds like you're talking to somebody on the phone. With that audio, it's very, very light. But it also really allows you to pick up on background noises that you don't necessarily notice are there. It also has the noise cancellation mode. Now, when you do the noise cancellation mode, it's like magic. I honestly think they should have named these Magic Pods, not AirPods, because you put them in and all of a sudden you hear everything turn off. The equivalent to me is like a fan in a room has been turned off. It goes from this like low kind of to nothing. And it feels almost as severe as a fan that's on and being turned off, but that background noise is something that you just have learned to ignore. And what's really fun too is when you put the pods in, you put them in one at a time, normally, unless you pull them both out. But you'll put in one side, and it instantly goes into transparency mode. And then when you put in the other side, it activates and realizes that both are in, and it will jump into noise cancellation. And so you put in the right one, and then you put in the left one, and you just hear
really?
It all like turns off, and it's addictive. I don't want to listen to the world anymore. I just like having the noise cancellation in because I can still hear people around me, even when they're on and not playing any audio. And I can still, hear things. They're not completely taking out all sound, but they take out that background noise and they dampen down significantly talking and other audio and things like that.
Yeah.
Once you start playing music, you then can't hear anything outside of it.
Really?
That's where the real noise cancellation starts happening.
Yeah, I was going to ask if you would even call it coworker mode. Because there are times when you want to cut out your coworkers. You know what I'd love to see, using AI is like selecting sounds to get rid of. Like, I know it sounds kind of crazy, but like, here, listen to this voice and then cut that voice out. And that way I can hear
individual person.
Well, because at work, like, let's say at any job, maybe you want to cut out a coworker. But you need to hear the other noise around you, because we actually get deliveries and, we have a chime on the door. So it would be good to hear other things, but just, man, it'd be great to cut out, certain people or sounds or, I
actually had the idea. So over this weekend, I was up at my in-laws' house and I was working with my father-in-law on a mantle for our living room. And I was wearing the AirPods because we were using, power tools and stuff like that, and it just kind of helps. They work like earplugs as well. But I thought we already have like decibel detection on the Apple Watch.
Yeah.
What if there was a way that they could be connected so that I could have the AirPods in all the time and have it in transparency mode, but it detect other noises, and if I'm in a place that's too loud, it instantly starts to like turn them on and cancel out that noise to protect your hearing.
Yeah.
Like I see a future where it's almost like a hearing aid, right? But you just wear them all the time.
Yeah.
And it's constantly fading out or fading in audio that is good for you. And then you could even, if you could, eventually go and choose, to fade out people, or maybe there's a dog that barks all the time, or just explicitly kind of do that.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I do see a future where maybe they do like some kind of hearing aid, because I don't know about you, but I'm sure that I will need it thanks to seeing the Ramones a few times.
Yeah.
Very loud at a small club years ago. Yeah, I mean, and the cost of hearing aids is insane.
So really, really high.
I could see where they use AI and other technologies in the future and kind of turn these into like a hearing aid type thing. I can definitely see that.
I could see Apple eventually turning into a full like health, or having a full health department or division, and working on things like that aren't just a way to magnify but also protect and enhance your hearing.
Yeah, well,
which would be really cool.
Yeah, well, Tim Cook has said over and over, and I think we've mentioned it before, that his exact quote was that Apple's biggest contribution to society would be health. So,
and I definitely can see it. I could see there being health benefits to some AR glasses, in safety.
Yeah,
able to point out things that are dangerous, or and alert you to things, detect things. If they could figure out a way to, using those, opacity or whatever, bring magnification so that it's easier to see things, or there's a lot I think that couldn't be done for us.
Yeah, well,
in the health universe.
Yeah, because if they can actually have the prescription built in where you can adjust it, would be amazing, and
that'd
cut the
so
cost.
Cool.
Yeah,
could you imagine? You don't have to change your lenses; it could just change your focus on the glasses themselves.
Oh my God, it'd be amazing. And then back to the AirPods too. If they were like hearing aids, and you right now you think, oh, how much are they? $250? The AirPods Pro,
yes.
right? So, that's really expensive. Well, if it's a hearing aid, I mean, I think hearing aids are what, $7,000? I don't know, $4,000 to $7,000.
Insane.
Something. Yeah. So all of a sudden, $250 doesn't seem like a lot of money. And glasses are expensive too. So I don't know how much their AR glasses are going to be, but
if you're younger and using these kinds of things now, and they make it so that it can help you preserve and protect your hearing later on, those costs are going to also be saved.
Yeah,
because you won't need specialized hearing aids necessarily too. You can just continue to use things like this. So there was a great article. There's been a bunch of people who've been going out and doing reviews of the AirPods, AirPod Pros. I have really not found any negative. Honestly, I find them addictive, using them at work, because I didn't realize how much background noise was going on with the air conditioners and the air ventilation systems, as well as working in an open floor plan, how much just random general noise there is. And it really helps you focus and get clear. It's easy to toggle between the transparency mode and the noise cancellation, just squeezing on the AirPod itself at the top. While it's in your ear, you squeeze on it once, it will pause audio. You squeeze on it twice, real quick, like a double squeeze, and it will toggle between the transparency and the noise cancellation.
And you can reassign those, right?
Yes, you can.
You can reassign the commands of the...
You can. There is a great article by Popular Mechanics where a guy tested the new AirPod Pro against the Bose 700 on a flight, cross-country flight. And I'm just going to read you one little paragraph from it here. But basically he said, I took a pair of Bose 700, which is a $400 noise-canceling headphones, and the AirPod Pro, $250, on a cross-country flight. And for those who are airline nerds, it was a 787 Dreamliner. And then he did a comparison test. So after years of testing headphones this way, I expected no competition. But it was close enough to pose a real question about which is better and why. And I'll let you guys go through and read the article yourself. But basically what he said was the AirPods themselves were very, very good and surprisingly good at knocking back that air pollution sound of the plane. You could hear a little bit of the hum of the plane, squeezing in between songs, but when music and audio was going, it was fantastic. Now, the places where the AirPods lost to the Bose ones was first of all, the fact that the Bose are over ear and can so that is fully covering your ear, so it does provide a little bit of the better noise cancellation while there's no audio going.
Yeah.
Additionally, it was on battery life. Now, not the overall battery life, because the AirPod Pro will go for 5 hours at a time while you have them in. But you have to then put them back into the case and let them charge for a little bit. And then you would be able to get about 24 hours total of audio time on them. Whereas the Bose ones, I think, can go for 10 hours just straight. Not a problem.
Ooh.
Fully booked in. Now, they do have, from a form factor size, and this is something else he kind of mentioned in there, the Bose ones are huge, right? Because they are overhead,
right?
And they have a little case for you to hold them in. But if you're packing and space is limited, the AirPods are a tiny little thing. It's about a little bit larger than a pack of Tic Tacs, and you throw them in your pocket, you're good to go. Pairing on them is very simple, and the only difference is that the AirPod Pro also doesn't work with, it doesn't have any way to connect like a 35 millimeter headphone jack. So if you've got some other device like a Nintendo Switch, you can plug in the Bose 700s directly, but you can't do that with the AirPod Pro. You'll have to buy some kind of an adapter to get Bluetooth. But if you already have a pair of AirPod Pros, or are looking for a pair of headphones for every day that are good for jogging and working out and doing the gym, and using at work, then you can feel good knowing that those headphones are going to work really well for you on a flight as well, and you don't need to go and buy some other crazy set of headphones.
Yeah.
They are addictive, man, and I just want to have them in all the time, which is silly.
Yeah.
But it's just so nice.
I had a question, because the AirPods 1 and 2, the controls for pausing and playing and Siri, etc., is tapping on the actual headphone. Now, it's not the same with these AirPods Pro, right?
Correct.
It's only squeezing. There's no tapping at all.
Not that I've found. I haven't.
Like, it's not in the.
It didn't tell me to tap anywhere.
Yeah, it's not in the Bluetooth.
Only squeeze.
Not in the Bluetooth settings or anything.
I didn't see it. I could be wrong, but I don't believe so. And when you squeeze on them, it makes a click, but it's that haptic feedback. It's similar to your iPhone, right? It's not actually depressing. It just kind of vibrates to let you know that it's reading it. I haven't found any issues with that. I didn't have the pair of AirPods before, so I don't know how convenient just a tap was versus the squeeze, but the squeeze is really easy to me.
Yeah.
But honestly, with the exception of pausing audio, I use Siri for everything. I use Siri so much more now because of those AirPods. Her integration is fantastic. I can have it start I'll put them in when I'm getting ready to do my bike ride, and I can have her start the workout and start playing music through Spotify, which is really great. And instantly everything's good to go. I don't have to fuss with my watch anymore. I don't have to fuss with my phone anymore. It's all right there. When I get a text message, she instantly reads it to me. And actually, this was super creepy. Remember we were talking about, or borderline creepy, but it was super exciting. I wanted to call you almost immediately when it happened. But remember when we first upgraded to iOS 13, and you were saying that the way that Siri was talking felt, it was creepy in that it was so realistic.
Yeah.
It was too human.
I still use it every morning to set a timer for my tea. I've mentioned this on the previous episode, and it goes,
yeah.
Creepy.
So after like the second message, I think it was sent to me. So she's like, you have a message. It does a little chime. It says message from, Kevin Hare. And then she'll read out the message. The last time she read it to me, she said something to the effect of, she's like, your message is, hey, you want to record or something? Also, just so you're aware, you can just say reply or to reply back.
right.
or send a text to reply back. But the way that it said it, it felt so natural, like almost like they recorded that line. But the thing is, there are no lines for Siri recorded because it's all generated through the software, right? There's not a person.
Right.
There was a person who Siri's voice is based off of, but there are no like set full recordings. And it was so natural and like flawless in the tonality that it made me stop for a minute and go, what was that?
Like it sounded like someone speaking to you.
100%. It felt like I had like something from Iron Man, some AI system from a movie, right? That's like way in advanced. It was nuts. And so now I use that. So she'll tell me that I have a message and I'll just say, okay, reply. And she'll, all right, what do you want to say? And tell her what I want to say and send it off. And yeah, I'm still on my way. I don't have to take my hands off my brakes. I can tell her to skip songs, or to pause something, and which is great too. And I feel like I was worried that I'd have to like yell at it. No, I don't have to talk that loud because it's inside of you. It's in your ear, and all of that stuff is connected. So it hears you really well, even with the background noise from the cars and from the wind while I'm on my bike and everything else. It just flawlessly. I've never had to yell at it multiple times like I have with the watch before. So cannot stress how much I love them. So they are my pick for this week.
Yeah.
If you haven't guessed already, highly recommend them. And if you have a pair of AirPods, if you're looking to the market, I highly recommend them. If you have a pair of AirPods now, maybe hang on a little bit and see if they can come down in price, if you're still happy with yours. But anybody who's on the fence, 100% say go for it because they're awesome.
And Tim Cook says you need both. So
I don't know why you would need both. If you have the AirPod Pro, I don't know why you would ever go back to your other ones.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I could definitely see that. And you're really tempting me to look on the Apple Store right now and hit that buy button or see if there's some nearby at an Apple Store. Oh boy.
Yeah. You can get some nice engraving on your case too.
That's right.
And the inductive case too comes with it automatically.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I just stick it on my charging plate and good to go.
That's awesome. Well, it's very tempting. Oh boy. Well, why don't I leave this subject so I don't get tempted?
So what's your pick?
My pick is Flipboard. Now, Flipboard has been around for years and years.
Yeah.
I'll go over my description and the description in the App Store. I call it a news and subject aggregator, because, obviously you can follow like regular news, but you can add whatever you want. If you're into cats, dogs, you can find people that have magazines about that. They call them magazines that you make, right? I have several. The good thing about it too is it's available on iOS, Mac, Android, Windows, and the web. And I believe you can read stories even if you haven't joined Flipboard. You just can't make a magazine unless you join. So,
interesting. But
yeah, and on the iPad, it's really great. That's kind of like the pinnacle of this app is having it on the iPad because it flips like a magazine, hence the name Flipboard. On the iPhone, it flips upward instead of side to side like a magazine. Still good. Yeah, I mean, you can just follow subjects that you're interested in. You can also follow people that may have several magazines or just follow their individual magazines. You can follow companies. The description in the App Store says, discover stories in New York Times, National Geographic, Vanity Fair, and thousands more from around the world. You can design your own smart magazines and bundle together sources, people, and even hashtags.
Super cool.
Yeah. So it actually is on the Apple Watch, but it is quite different.
From flip on your watch.
Yeah, it doesn't. Let's just say it's not as great, but it is kind of handy. When I use it on the Apple Watch, which is seldom, it looks like it's just aggregating like latest news kind of stories. It's not actually subjects that you're following already. It would just probably be too much to have on the Apple Watch, and you probably wouldn't really get into it on the Apple Watch and want to read, and but it's handy for some latest news stories. So it is in a way similar to like Apple News and Google News, but the way it's set up, especially again on the iPad, is it's more like a magazine. And I mention this because we have 2 magazines on Flipboard.
Hey.
Yes. And we've had those. We've had those. So if anyone's not aware or hasn't actually looked at the show notes, every single episode has the link to both magazines. The reason I put it in there too is there's so much news sometimes. We keep this show to roughly around an hour. If we went over all the Apple stories and Apple Watch stories, it could be 3 to 4 hours. And we just cannot possibly do that. And
people don't quite have the time.
And I think anyone listening that you would probably get bored after a while too. How long can you talk about this in one episode? But I cram a lot in there. So there's all the stories that we cover about Apple Watch and Apple, and many, 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 many more. I'm adding stories every single day. So it's definitely worth checking out if you haven't ever seen it. There's a lot of big names in there too. There's a lot of food and cooking, travel, sports, home and gardening, style, outdoor adventure by big name companies, and just people that make their own magazines as well. Anything you can think of, and it's just I use both this and Apple News mainly as my top 2. And I use them every single day. And the reason I use both is because they're slightly different in the news that they aggregate. Even the regular just kind of news, politics is slightly different than what Apple News does. So Flipboard and Apple News, a little different. And, the magazine experience on the iPad is very nice, is where Apple News is just scrolling and scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. So, I highly recommend it. Like I said, you don't have to be a member if you just want to read stories. You can click on the links in our show notes to see a lot of Apple stories and Apple Watch stories. But yeah, if you want to make magazines or even follow certain subjects, you would need to create an account. But
very cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. Just
if anything, as a way to kind of get a little bit more of the Apple Watchers podcast. Check us out there too.
I can't say it enough is we cannot cover all the stories, so we try to pick kind of the top stories every 2 weeks, and everything else is jam-packed into those 2 magazines, and we separate the Apple Watch stories and the Apple stories. So good place to check them out if you want to just sit back and read if you have the time for it. A lot of stories, and I mean a lot, because I probably cram about 5 to 10 in each magazine every day. So
you just say more and more every day.
Yep.
Very cool.
Yep. So check it out. Well, that's it for this episode of the Apple Watchers. Read all the stories we've covered and more stories on Flipboard, a link provided in the show notes. Reach out to us on Twitter @WatchersTweet if you have any suggestions or stories you'd like us to cover. We're available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, Overcast, or wherever you get your podcasts. Ask your smart speaker to play the Apple Watchers podcast. Please subscribe and rate us wherever you listen. And thank you for listening. Until the next episode, I hope the only complications in your life are the ones on the face of your Apple Watch.